Billionaire's daughter failed every test until the single-dad janitor taught her to start at zero. Samantha Langford had everything a girl could want: wealth, power, and the last name of one of the most feared business titans in the world. But behind her designer clothes and mansion gates, she carried a humiliating secret. She couldn't pass her university exams. Her father, billionaire Richard Langford, had poured money into tutors, professors, even psychologists, but nothing worked. Samantha had failed economics twice, business law once, and mathematics 3 times. Each red mark on her transcript burned deeper into her pride. Her father's voice still rang in her ears. "You're a disgrace to the Langford name. Do you even try, Samantha?" On the night of yet another failed exam, Samantha sat alone in the campus library, papers crumpled in her trembling hands. She had everything except the one thing money couldn't buy: understanding. That's when the janitor approached. He wasn't flashy, just a quiet man in his 40s, pushing his mop, humming softly. His name tag read David Cole, a widowed single dad. He worked nights to keep food on the table for his daughter. He noticed Samantha's tears streaking her makeup. "You okay, miss?" he asked gently. "No, I'm not okay," she snapped. But then her voice broke. "I'm failing everything. I'm supposed to be smart, I'm a Langford, but I don't understand any of this." David studied the mess of textbooks in front of her. "Mind if I take a look?" she scoffed. "What would you know about economics?" Instead of answering, David took a pen and drew a circle on her paper. "Zero," he said. She frowned. "What? Everything starts at zero. You don't climb a mountain by leaping to the top. You take one step, then another. You don't need to be perfect, you just need to start." Samantha rolled her eyes, but something in his tone, steady, patient, fatherly, cut through her. Pride against her instincts, she asked, "So how do I even start?" That night, the janitor became her first real teacher. He broke down complex formulas into simple, everyday examples. Supply and demand. He explained it using cafeteria sandwiches. Interest rates. He used the story of how he saved pennies to buy his daughter a bike, for the first time in her life. Samantha understood. Weeks turned into months. Every evening, when the library was nearly empty, David sat with her, teaching her to build from zero. Her confidence grew, her grades climbed, and when she finally opened her exam results, she burst into tears, this time from joy. She had passed. When Richard Langford found out, he stormed into the library, demanding to meet this mysterious tutor. His jaw dropped when he saw it was the janitor. "You," he sneered. "I pay millions for the best minds in the world, and my daughter learns from you?" David stood tall. "Your daughter didn't need the best minds. She needed someone willing to start at zero with her." For the first time in her life, Samantha pushed back against her father. "He's right, Dad. He taught me what no one else could. That failing isn't the end. It's just the beginning." The billionaire was left speechless. And as for Samantha, she carried David's lesson with her forever, using it, not only to pass her tests, but to rebuild her confidence, her career, and her future. Because sometimes, it takes a janitor, not a professor, not a billionaire. Remind you that every great story starts at zero. Samantha Langford's name carried weight. Wherever she went, New York, London, Dubai, people whispered, "That's Richard Langford's daughter." He was the billionaire who crushed rivals and turned companies into empires. But Samantha hated the whispers, because behind her designer suits and limousine rides, she hid a truth no one knew. She was failing miserably. Her economics professor had shaken his head at her last test. "Miss Langford, this is your 3rd failure. With your resources, I expected excellence." The sting of those words followed her all day. When she told her father, his voice boomed through the mansion like thunder. "Richard Langford, you are an embarrassment to this family name. Do you even understand what it means to be a Langford?" Samantha quietly, "I'm trying, Richard. Trying isn't good enough. You're my daughter. Act like it. He walked away, leaving her hollow. The janitor in the shadows that night. Samantha dragged her books into the campus library, determined to prove herself. She scribbled numbers across the page equations that mocked her intelligence. Tears blurred the ink. A soft humming broke the silence. Everything okay, miss? She looked up. A janitor in a faded uniform stood with a mop, his name tag reading David Cole. His voice was gentle, but his eyes carried something she hadn't seen, all-day kindness. No, I'm not okay, she muttered. I'm failing. Everything. And my father, her voice cracked, he thinks I'm useless. David studied the mountain of textbooks in front of her. Mind if I take a look? She gave him a sharp glance. What would you know about economics? David didn't answer. Instead, he drew a single circle on her notebook. 0, he said. Samantha frowned. What's that supposed to mean? Everything starts at 0. You don't win by jumping to the top. You build from nothing step by step. You failed, sure. But that's not the end. That's where you begin. For some reason, his words cut through her pride. Something inside hers, something tired of pretending leaned in. So, how do I start? That was the night the janitor became her teacher. Lessons from Zero. David's method was unlike any tutor's. He didn't lecture. He related everything to life, supply and demand. He pointed at the vending machine. When the price goes up on the last chocolate bar, people fight for it. That's demand. When the machine restocks, price drops. That's supply. Interest rates. He smiled. When my daughter wanted a bike, I saved coins every week. If I borrowed money, I'd pay more back. That's interest. For the first time, economics wasn't a monster in a textbook, it was real. They met in the library every night. Samantha laughed when she finally solved problems on her own. She stayed up late writing notes. Slowly, confidence replaced shame, and when exam results came, she stared at the paper in disbelief. She had passed. Tears ran down her cheeks. I did it, David. I really did it. The billionaire's wrath, but Richard Langford wasn't impressed when Samantha proudly showed him her score. He narrowed his eyes. And which tutor finally earned my money? It wasn't a tutor, she said, smiling. It was the library. Doors burst open. Richard stormed inside, flanked by his assistants. His eyes locked on David, who was sweeping the floor. You. Richard's voice dripped with disgust. You taught my daughter, a janitor. David straightened, unflinching. She didn't need a genius, Mr. Langford. She just needed someone who'd start at 0 with her. Richard sneered. Pathetic. My daughter will inherit billions, and you expect me to believe a man with a mop gave her what money couldn't buy? For the first time in her life, Samantha raised her voice at her father. He gave me understanding, Dad. Something you never did. The room fell silent. The boardroom test weeks later. Richard invited Samantha to sit in on a major board meeting at $2 billion merger deal. He wanted to show her what real business looked like. Executives filled the glass-walled boardroom, speaking in jargon, charts, and numbers. Samantha sat quietly, but David's lessons echoed in her mind. When the lead advisor boasted about inflated numbers, Samantha's eyes narrowed. The deal looked shiny, but she spotted flaw-supply mismatches, debt hidden behind interest tricks. Richard leaned over. Do you even understand what's happening? Samantha stood. Yes, and the numbers don't add up. The room froze. She picked up a marker and drew a circle on the whiteboard. 0. That's where this merger starts. Supply is weak, demand is overestimated, and the interest will bury us. If you sign this, you don't gain billions, you lose them. Gasps echoed. The executives exchanged nervous glances. One finally admitted, She's right. We missed that. Richard's face hardened, but for the first time, his eyes showed something other than disappointment. Respect, from failure to foundation, that night. As the boardroom emptied, Richard approached her quietly. You learned all that from him? Samantha smiled. Yes, from the janitor who taught me to start at zero. Richard looked through the glass walls at David, who was cleaning the hallway floor. For the first time in decades, the billionaire bowed his head, and Samantha. She walked out taller than ever, no longer just Richard Langford's daughter, but a woman who had discovered her own strength. Thanks to a single dad janitor who believed in her when no one else did. The Langford name was gold. Billionaire Richard Langford ruled finance like a king. His daughter Samantha was expected to inherit his empire, but expectations were a curse. At 23, Samantha was drowning. She had failed economics 3 times, business law once, and her professors were tired of excuses. On the night of her latest failure, she sat in the campus library. Her mascara streaked her cheeks as she crumpled another red-marked test. That's when the janitor noticed. David Cole, smiling gently. Long nights. Samantha snapping. What would you know about it? You're just a janitor. David, maybe. But I know what it feels like to fall flat. Question is, are you willing to start at zero? He drew a circle on her notebook. Everything great begins here. You don't fail until you stop trying. For reasons she couldn't explain. His words stuck out. Samantha began meeting him every night. David's teaching style was nothing like her professors. He turned theories into real-life lessons. Supply and demand. The last slice of pizza in the cafeteria.